Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Rose Heyer, mind body coach for moms. Welcome back to the Four Agreements Book Study. This is our last week talking about the Four Agreements book. We are going to discuss the last two chapters and talk about what do we do next. All right. So I hope you've enjoyed this whole series. I know I have. It has been a huge teacher for me in this phase of my life. And so I am grateful to extend these learnings to you. I really hope it helps you in some way. Be sure to share it with someone who might be interested in reading this book, might be a great companion. Send them the whole playlist of all of these videos. All right, so if you have the workbook, we are going to talk about, it says week 5 and week 6. We're kind of combining that together in this one video. So this second to last chapter is the Toltec Path to Freedom, Breaking Old Agreements. So we went through each of the 4 agreements already in the past videos, and we talked about what they mean, how to implement them in our lives as parents with our children, and how to, model that and teach that to our children. And so today I want to talk about breaking the old agreements from your past and asking yourself, what is keeping you from the freedom that you seek? And you may not even be aware, hopefully by now, if you've been reading and following along, you're aware of the fact that you haven't been living in complete freedom. And maybe you are, maybe that's what brought you here is, you know that there is more peace and more calm and content that you could have in your life, that you could be more free, and you're feeling stuck in your parenting and your life. You're wanting more out of this experience. And this is really the way, in my opinion. And it's not easy. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a daily practice, hundreds of times a day, daily practice. It's, scientifically speaking, it's rewiring the neurons in your brain. And that takes a lot of repetition, a lot of awareness, hyper awareness of what's going on. And frankly, it's exhausting sometimes. And I know from very personal experience that sometimes I just want to give up. Sometimes my brain is like, this is too hard. I have too much life to override. I have too much programming to try to change. It's just not going to work. And that's the old programming telling you that it's not going to work. And your body is physically addicted to the feelings of the past. So if this is hard for you, I just want to say, it's not you being a failure at this. It's not that it's easy for everyone else. It's not easy for someone who's been in this, awareness, transformational game, so to speak. I've been in it for years and it's still hard. I still have that little voice saying, you just kind of suck at this, Emily. And that is what he's trying to teach you, is we have these voices in our head, the judge and the victim, and this book of law, this whole set of laws that we have running our life based on how we've grown up and what we've believed, based on all the agreements that we've subconsciously been making, right? It's going to take time and repetition to break these old agreements. So I just want to start with that if you're finding this challenging, it's not you, it's all the stuff that we have in our brain. It is possible to make these changes. I have made significant changes in how I communicate with my people, how I show up in the world. I have created so much in my life that I don't believe was possible in the old iterations of who I was in the past. I was blocked, and I'm more and more free every day. And I really feel like that is the success of my life, to want to live, to want to be here, and to keep creating, because there was a time where I didn't. And I just know that throwing parenting on top of this existence makes things even harder and even more beautiful. And so I just want to extend that to you to keep going and to do this work, even if you feel like your brain is telling you that you don't have enough time or enough energy, to really make the time, create the energy to do this work. It's very important for yourself, for your children, the world, for generations to come. All right, so in the workbook, I have a question. Do you feel free? And who really stops you from being free? What stops you from being free? Write this down and examine it. And notice when the judge or the victim in your brain are dictating the answers. If you find yourself reading back your answers like, my husband stops me from being free, my kids stop me from being free, my job stops me from being free, my mom and my mother-in-law stops me from being free, my dad and his comments, look at all of your answers and examine if they're true. Ask yourself, is that true? Ask yourself, what's really keeping you from being free? And if you're reading the book, you'll understand that it is in your mind who you're blaming, who you're shaming. If you're blaming yourself, if you're shaming yourself, it's how you're explaining this that will show you where you need to do the work. Because the answer is you stop yourself from being free. And in doing this work, you free yourself. All right, have you noticed your children becoming less wild and free as they grow older? I can say 100% yes. I have noticed where my own programming, my own experiences, and what I think a parent should be teaching their children has taught my son to be less wild and free. And you might be thinking, well, of course, you have to tame your wild children. You have to show them how to be a contributing citizen in the world, right? That's how we always talk about it. Like, I just want my child to grow up and be a productive citizen in the world. And yeah, but in the process, we put all of these little things in their head. We put up a chain here and a bar here. And over time, their true wild little self that's so beautiful is caged in. By the time they grow up, they're caged in. And then they find themselves having to do this work to free themselves again. And so notice, write it down, or just as you're going through your day with your kids, notice where you've tamed their spirits. And this is not to judge you or to blame you. It's just for you to take awareness in those moments. I can give you several examples of myself doing it. Even though I've been aware of this process, it's still so sneaky and subconscious. So I love art. I love being creative. I love the process of like painting and coloring and all of that. And as a child, you will make mistakes and you will get messy and you will spill things and you won't know what you're doing. But that's part of the process of learning, especially for little kids without the fine motor skills, right? But I find myself wanting to control my son's art creative process. Like, I'm wanting him to dip the paintbrush in the water and then in the watercolors a specific way, like the way I've learned to do it over time, because I've learned to stop myself from making messes. So I'm wanting to teach that to him. And in doing that, I see like it's stifling his process and he ends up not wanting to do it anymore. And that breaks my heart. I'm like, oh my gosh, Emily, you just ruined it. So I'm learning to just like completely back off and expect a mess and expect that we will clean it up. And that's just like one tiny example of just getting in the way of someone's own wild and free spirit. Not that I want my son to like throw paint everywhere and get our house covered in paint, but I'm trying to control like how he's using the paintbrush. And that's not my process. That's his. He has to learn. He's not even 5 yet. But I've noticed where I start to control. And that bothers me. So I'm actively working on trying to stop that. And that's just such a small example. Think about how we are teaching our kids to eat, how to play, how to interact with people. Oh, you can't say that. That's rude. You're going to hurt someone's feelings. You have to play with everyone. You have to share your toys. Like, we put all these parameters on how they live. Don't say that. Say this. Say hello. Say thank you. We are just completely programming them all day, every day. And I can say, I remember how that felt as a child, just feeling like boxed in all the time. And what happens is you internalize that as like, something's wrong with me, that I'm being corrected so much. Like, I can't do anything right. And I really, really want to make sure that my son knows that he's perfect in the way that he is in his spirit. And yes, we have to learn how to interact with society that we live in, but how can we do it in a way that boosts his confidence in who he is and not stifle his spirit? All right, so do you believe you have the power to free yourself of suffering and help your children to free themselves? This is important because if you are questioning your own power, if you're letting the judge and the victim talk for you, you won't be able to do this work. If you have to believe that you have the power to override it, even when you're having a hard day, remember, always do your best. If you're sick, if you're exhausted, sleep deprived, your best is going to be a little bit less than normal, but you still strive to do your best in those moments, right? So if you don't believe you even have this power to change, you're not going to change. So ask yourself, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you believe that you can actually change yourself? All right, so I'm going to go to the next page in the workbook. The new dream, heaven on earth. What is stopping you from living your life without the fear? What is stopping you? This is really important. That's why I put lots of lines on this sheet. And you can, write it in a journal too, but ask yourself, like, what is stopping you? You're going to see a list of all your objections to doing this work. Those objections are now the work that you need to overcome. Okay, so this exercise is really important. Write down everything that you think is stopping you from living the life that you want and living life without fear, without scarcity, without anxiety. And how can you pass that along to your children? How can you pass along this freedom to your children? That's what this is all about. What's stopping you? Because if you have a list of like 5 objections and you believe that they are real and true and there's no way to overcome it, then how are you going to help your children overcome these things, right? So write a list, and I want you to know that I'm here with you, that I can help you. I have been doing this work myself. It is really challenging. Like I said in the beginning, even on my hardest days, I try really hard to catch my thoughts and to catch the judge and the victim and notice where I'm blaming and shaming myself, blaming and shaming my husband, my parents, society, and say, see, that's why this is so hard. It's them or it's her, right? Or see, I just suck at this. I can't get this right. I have to notice those moments every single day. And that's what I hope you can take away from this, is to break those old agreements, to really like study these new 4 agreements, write them down, put them on your wall, break this book out anytime you need it. I read it at least once a year and get a refresher. I have it on Audible too. And try to get your family on board with it too. Offer to give them this book, or, or listen to it on Audible so they can understand the changes that you're trying to make as well. When your family's on board, it makes a huge difference. Not that it's impossible without them. My husband started reading this book, and he now speaks this language with me so we can talk about it. Like, oh, don't make assumptions, right? It really helps in our relationship as, husband and wife, but also as co-parents together with our children. So what are the next steps? You've read the book, you're doing this work in the workbook. Now what? I want to offer a free consultation for you if you are finding this challenging and you want to know how to implement this on a regular basis. I offer a one-on-one coaching program. I do 6 weeks or 12 weeks, but I'd love to talk with you first for free and hear how you have enjoyed this book study, how challenging it has been for you, what you got out of it. I'd love to talk to you and see how we could work together if that makes sense for you. And if you feel like you could just do this on your own after a free consultation, completely fine. I just think from my perspective, I have not been able to do the work completely on my own. I've had to have the help of a coach to see my brain from, a more 360 view to show me the places that I'm missing, those sneaky thoughts that are still there. And that has really helped in uncovering the judge and the victim and getting all that stuff out and healing from it so it's no longer rolling around in my head. So I'd love to be that guide for you. If you are interested in that, there is a link in the description box. You can go to my website, emilyrosehire.com. In the top right corner, there's a button to schedule a consultation. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. And like I said before, share it with your friends and family if they're interested in reading this book. I think it's a great companion. And again, thank you so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.